We're continuing to look at graphic display tools that we can use. Last week we looked at rendering and graphic display options along with adding decals and ceilings and just a lot of other ways of presenting our project. So in this second part we're going to continue with those graphic display options. So the first thing I want to show you here is that we can use here what's called an exploded view or displacing elements. So I'm going to change this from realistic, which isn't working really well in 2022, to hidden, just to make it a little bit easier for us to see. If we then select the roof and look at this new modified tab that's created because we have something selected, you can look for the view panel and there's an icon right there called Displace Elements. And if you just rest your pointer there, you'll see that you can displace elements in this view but still be able to maintain the main 3D view. And in fact, that's a good reason for us to duplicate this view and then call it displaced elements or exploded views. Okay, so let's go back and use your escape key to not have that roof selected. Highlight the 3D view here in the project browser, right click and pick duplicate view and then duplicate right there. Now with this one duplicated, let's right click with your pointer on the title and pick rename. We're going to call this one exploded view. Now in that exploded view view in the project browser, we can select that roof again and then pick this icon we were talking about, displace elements. And now we can use these arrows to pull the roof in the direction we'd want it to go in to kind of displace it. And with it selected still, we can use this tool called Path. We'll go ahead and click on that to go right to the edge of the roof corners and kind of drop here these lines down to show that it's kind of exploded or brought away from that view. And that's only in this view. The 3D view is still all the same and not exploded, or displaced. We'll do it again here for this wall, so we can click on the wall, come back up here and click on Displace Elements, and this time use the green arrow to kind of pull it out here on the side. Use the Path tool to show the path of that displacement. So this is awesome if you're creating this model and you want to kind of see inside of it and graphically show that displacement. So there are other tools here to add or remove those elements from the displacement or to reset it. All right, that's a kind of a cool kind of way to represent your drawings. The other thing that we want to look at is creating a color-coded plan. So before we color code this plan, it's based on the room names. So we haven't put any room names in yet, so let's take a look at doing that. In the architecture tab, we can click on the room icon right there in the room and area panel, and when you go close to a room, you'll see the text there. We can go ahead and click and then come straight down and click. So you're going to go ahead and click in any one of your rooms here to place the room title. I'll go ahead and cancel out of that. The room separator would be if you have a kitchen and a dining room and you want to make those separate room titles. If you look at the image there, there's A and B. You can just draw a line that kind of separates the kitchen from the dining room, or whatever two two rooms are not completely enclosed, but you'd need to separate them to give them each a name. All right, so what we need to do now is to rename these. We can click here on the room tag, and then here inside the room name, and call this whatever you'd like. Bedroom, maybe bedroom 1. And then over here, just go ahead and rename your rooms. Maybe it's retail or something else. I'm just gonna go ahead and make this kind of quick. But this is for your learning reference. There's that. And then maybe this is like the main living room. All right, so just make sure that each one of these rooms has its own name. And now we can go back to placing your pointer on the first floor plan and right click and pick duplicate view and then duplicate with detailing. If you just pick duplicate, you'd lose your text, and we want to keep those room names, so we're creating a copy of the first floor, but they're going to be linked if anything happens in the first floor. It's all one model, remember, all of this is all one model. So duplicate with detailing, and now we're going to use this to create a color-coded plan. So we'll right click on that copy over here in the project browser, pick rename, and call this color-coded plan or floor plan, color-coded floor plan. And now we are going to add colors to our rooms. We can go to properties over here for this view, and under color scheme we'll pick that none, color scheme none. But the categories are not spaces, the categories, so let's change this the categories to rooms, and then we'll use the names. So we'll click on name. So we've changed the category to rooms. We click on name. These are the room names that we created, and now we can see kind of a preview of these colors, but we can set up whatever colors we'd like. Let's go ahead and pick apply and pick OK. Those are very light colors. We can take the floor out if we wanted to take out the wood look, you know, the wood behind it, or we could go back here to the color scheme. Let's click on name and change these colors. This is a little bit lighter than what we've seen in the past as far as the color combination, and probably as kind of a background. But if you'd like to go in and change your colors, you can go ahead and do that. I'll just change one of them and show you that you have the flexibility of creating whatever colors you'd like. What I'd like to do here is to see what happens when I turn off here the floor. I'm just going to go ahead and hide that category, and it's still really a light color. That's the default. So it's up to you whether you go ahead and change your room colors. It's a design feature for you to use. You can also decide on whether or not to turn off your floor, that category of floor, so that you can take out the lines of the wood. I'm going to go ahead and select this section cut. Also, right click, go to hide and view and category to just kind of clean it up a little bit more. And then we're going to annotate this by creating a legend. So let's go to the annotate tab up at the top and look for the color fill panel. We'll click on color fill legend. There's our room legend, and when we click to bring it into our drawing, we've now created this kind of color-coded plan based on these room names. Of course, you can change the color, and you can also change the text if you needed something different. By the way, The other thing I would mention here, since we're starting to bring in text, is that we have a scale for this drawing. At the bottom left corner, the 1/8 inch equals a foot is going to really control what your text height is. So if I change the scale at the bottom left corner here to, let's say, 1/4 inch equals a foot, you see how the text gets a lot smaller. So if you wanted to play around with that a little bit and see if maybe 3/16 works better, I think an 1/8 inch was a good one to use, but just for future reference, and as we start to create our sheets, we're going to need to determine the scale based on how it fits on a sheet of paper, and basically also how the text and annotation looks. Okay, there are two more things I'm adding to this video for this color-coded plan. One is down at the bottom left corner. We can turn our shadows on and kind of make for a nice graphics intensity of the shadows as we look at the sun settings and decide on which side we want those to go on, right? So I went underneath the sun and pick sun settings, and then I pick sunlight from the top left to change the direction. So top right, and then it kind of switches over that way. And then also the angle, how high do you want it, and how far do you want it from south to north, east, west. So in this one, the altitude would be the angle here. I'm going to go ahead and let's say 10. And then for 10, when I pick apply, you see how I get a little bit different view, because the altitude is like the angle, and the angle going up from ground level up to and higher, and then the azimuth is really around at ground level. So there is a difference between these two when we're talking about angles. So if we find something that's a little bit better angle for us, we can work with these two, decide on whether it's top right, top left, and get kind of a better graphics, whatever you believe might look good. Let's see here. I think I might want to have this a little bit more depth. You have to click over here on both sides. Okay, so another graphic that we can use to darken in the walls, we can type in VG and go down to walls, highlight walls, and then what we want to do is create an override for the cut pattern. So underneath cut patterns, I'm going to click on override, and then I'm going to change this to solid fill, and then the color could be black, right? So solid fill and black here for these two, and I'll pick OK and apply and OK. And now I have kind of a nice graphic to have that solid black wall. You can use that same feature here under VG for your walls. So your walls in section, if you were in the section view and you worked with the override for the walls in the section view, you could make it black as well. Okay. Going back to the first floor, let's go ahead and double click on the first floor and create a color and create a walkthrough, right? So up at the top we have that little house icon, and underneath that 3D house icon we have camera and walkthrough. We also have it in the view tab. So if you go over to the view tab here, there's a bigger icon of the house right there in the create panel. We can go down to walkthrough. So the idea for the walkthrough is that you're clicking to place little like camera frames, and you can have several of them, and the more that you pick, the smoother I think the drawing goes through, and it just depends on also how big your drawing is and how much speed you're looking for. So I'm going to start the walkthrough out here, like it's on the outside. It's going to come through. I'm going to click to bring us in, and then maybe circle around to look at the rooms, and then come around to, to this view. You can go upstairs, you can go out the door, you can really create here a walkthrough that is like an aerial view of the exterior. We're just doing the simple one here of the interior view. And once you're done in the up in the panel, you can click finish walkthrough. Look in the browser, we did create a walkthrough, so we can double click on that walkthrough, and it shows you the beginning of it. There it is. So now if we want to play the walkthrough, you can select here the frame of it, pick edit walkthrough, and then with the frame on the first one, and then of 300, you can click on play and watch it go through with all of those steps that you took to go through from camera to camera. It's going fast right now, but I think if I put it on realistic, it would be a lot slower. So it depends on, say, what your computer regeneration time is for this. It might take a little bit longer, but I think worth it is depending on what you want to see. So I'm going to go ahead and press escape and pick yes, that I want to stop that one, and I'll go back here to yes, I do want to get out of the walkthrough, and I'll go back to hidden line now in the graphic display here at the bottom. So in the properties over on the right hand side at the bottom, very bottom, if you scroll down, you'll see walkthrough frames. I just want to point out to you that there is a uniform speed that's set up. If you wanted it to go faster and then slow down a little bit, you can modify some of the frames here to change frames per second and modify it this way. Okay, so if you double click on the first floor plan and you're in the first floor plan, but you just click once on the walkthrough in the project browser and then right click and pick show camera, it will show the camera with the walkthrough here on the first floor plan, and then pick edit walkthrough. And right now our controls are based on the active camera, so we can change the controls to path. And now we have access to the path, and we're able to get to these little grips and kind of change it so that you can hold your left mouse button down and drag your mouse, drag that little grip out, and you're modifying, how the path of the cameras is coming around in that drawing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. If you click in space, it's going to ask you if you want to edit the walkthrough. If you do anything, you can go ahead and pick yes. All right, so once you have this walkthrough, and you can double click to go over to it. I actually changed that first frame. You can go to File and down to Export and Images and Animations and pick Walkthrough. When you export your walkthrough, you're creating a little movie of it, so you can change some of the visual styles and things that you want to in this dialog box. When you pick OK, it's going to ask you to find here the path of where you want to save that file, and you see how it becomes an AVI file. AVI, I'll go ahead and pick save here. And I use the defaults, but if you wanted to change some of how it's compressed, you can go ahead and pick OK. And now it's kind of walking through and creating this movie, this animation file of that camera view. If you go back to your folder, you'll find the animation file, and you can go ahead and double click on it. It'll run through the walkthrough. So now let's go to the site plan over in the project browser and create another walkthrough. We're going to go to the View tab, and underneath 3D View, click Walkthrough. But this time, as we're clicking points to set our camera, we're going to change the offset. So right now I just clicked on these 2 points, setting it at 5'6". So one way of changing the height is to change it while you're placing it. I'm changing this to 10 feet instead of 5'6", so it's going to kind of go up, and then I'll click, and now maybe I'll change it to go down. I'll just type in 4, and that's my next camera. So it's kind of going like up and then back down, and then I can maintain it at 4 feet and maybe go a little bit higher. So we want to go maybe up to 8 feet, let's say, for the next one. And so now we're at 8 feet. We're kind of flying around the house. We're going to change the cones to kind of look towards the house. Maybe at this point I want to go up kind of high, so I'll go up to maybe 15 feet. And you have to like type it in kind of quickly right there, 15. And so now I'm at 15 feet. I'm going around at 15 feet, and I'm going to be able to kind of like dive back down. And so I'll go ahead and change the next one to 5 maybe. And then I'm diving down to go into the building. All right, so you can have fun with this. Check it out. See what you want to do as you're kind of making that fly through. I'm going to go ahead and finish the walkthrough. And then over here, you'll see that it's in the project browser. Double click on walkthrough 2. The thing is, we didn't change the way that the camera is viewing these the building. So let's take a look. We can go to edit walkthrough and put the frame back here to 1, and go back to edit walkthrough here on that tab and pick play. And so see how we come down and we go around, and then we're coming up, right? We're going around the building. You can't see it because they need to change the cone of reference, but it's definitely going around, and now it's coming into the front. So let's go take a look at how we can change the cone of reference there. We're going to go to the site plan again, and then edit the walkthrough. We can change our location of the camera by just holding your left mouse button down and dragging it along that path. And so when we get over to this side, we want to be able to pull this kind of view, this triangular cone shape, to look at the building. So you can use this little dot right there, this little pink dot right there that's at the end of this line, to hold your left mouse button down and kind of like drag the view over a little bit. You can even adjust, how much of a view, the depth of the camera as well. So you pull it around to the next one, and maybe at this point you kind of like turn it so that it looks at the building. So each one here we're able to not only change the height, but also kind of like the direction that the camera is looking, and how much of the camera is looking on the building. So as I walk myself around this from camera to camera, I'm editing it so that it kind of like turns and looks at the building while it's kind of flying around. And so at this point it's coming down and it's kind of turning towards the building. It's starting to go towards the building like we saw when we played it. Let's go ahead and go to walkthrough 2. Double click on walkthrough 2, pick edit walkthrough, and this is where I go back to the first frame, and then I go back to edit walkthrough and pick play. And now when we look at this, it should come up and turn and look at the building. right? You see how it's kind of looking at the building and kind of going around it, and now it's going up and then back down into the buildings. So we looked at changing the height while you were placing the walkthrough, and now let's say you've already placed it and you want to change the heights after you've changed it, after you've placed it, because what we did was we changed the height while we were creating it, while we were walking through the path. But now it's already done, right? So if you try to go back in the plan and change it, you won't be able to, because as I said, the only place you can change the height will be in like an elevation or a section or 3D view. So we'll go with the 3D view, double click on the 3D view here. And what I did was I changed my visual display down here at the bottom. Instead of it being hidden line, I went to graphic display options and I changed my transparency. So here, if I change my transparency so that I can kind of see through it, I'll be able to see the path of the camera. I'll pick apply and pick OK, and then I can highlight. I'm still in the 3D view. I can highlight walkthrough 2, right click and pick show camera. And now there's the camera, but I have to go to kind of like a side view. So I'll go to the front view here, or you can just orbit around so that you can kind of see the camera. And now we want to edit it. So we'll go to edit walkthrough and change my controls from the active camera to the path. Now we're looking at the path in a different view than the plan. So really I could orbit around. I'm holding my shift key and the wheel of my mouse to kind of orbit around to be able to see this path. And so now when I click on one of these, little blue grips, you see how I can pull it up, and that's why they're kind of suggesting that you use kind of a front view or an elevation. I could actually go to the elevation and change it to transparent, and then use edit walkthrough and the controls of the path. So if I wanted this back one to kind of like come up before it went down, I could do that there. I could make this one kind of come down even further, so it's coming up and then it's coming down and then it's coming around. So and maybe even when I first started the path here, I used 5'6", but if I wanted to kind of pull that up a little bit so you're kind of like flying in at a higher height, you could do that too. So this is how you can change the height after you've placed it. Take a look at what you can create for these two walkthroughs. One's going to be an interior walkthrough that can be here on the first floor plan, and kind of going inside and around, and then the second one is on the exterior based on the site plan here. And both can be created as a movie, an animation movie. That could be for your reference. For what we're going to be doing, go ahead and create here an exploded view, work with the color coded plan, and then finish up with the two walkthroughs. And we'll pick up other presentation techniques as we continue with our project.